The targeting computer flickered once, then died completely. Captain Thalia whispered. Constantinos pressed her palm against the console, feeling the vibration of the C-130's engines through the metal. The red error message blinked mockingly at her as she worked in the cramped avionics bay, tools spread across her lap like surgical instruments. Outside, the Mediterranean stretched endlessly blue beneath their reconnaissance flight, but inside this aluminum tube, everything felt wrong. She'd been assigned to calibrate the targeting system, a job typically reserved for junior technicians, not decorated pilots with 16 years of service. The crew chief had handed her the work order with barely concealed amusement, muttering something about desk jockeys playing with real equipment. Thalia had taken it without comment, as she always did. Let them think what they wanted. She knew the difference between precision and politics. The system hadn't been properly maintained in months. Budget cuts, they said, personnel shortages, the usual excuses that got people killed when technology failed at altitude. She traced the wiring harness with practiced fingers, searching for the loose connection that had been plaguing this particular aircraft for weeks. No one else had found it. No one else had bothered to look hard enough. Captain Marcus Reeves's voice crackled through the intercom from the cockpit, casual and dismissive. "How's that computer coming, Constantinos? We've got actual work to do up here." His co-pilot laughed, a sound that carried just enough edge to cut. These hotshot transport pilots thought reconnaissance was beneath them, thought her presence on their crew was some kind of administrative mistake. Thalia stripped another wire, tested the connection, and methodically worked her way through the diagnostic checklist. The targeting computer was the aircraft's eyes and ears, its ability to paint precise coordinates for ground forces and naval assets. Without it, they were just another cargo plane burning fuel over international waters. With it properly calibrated, they could save lives. "Still working, Captain," she replied evenly. Her voice carried that particular quality that had earned her the call sign Whisper, not because she spoke softly, but because when she transmitted coordinates, her voice became something else entirely. Steady, unshakable, the kind of voice that guided missiles home and brought pilots back alive. She found the problem buried deep in the navigation interface, a hairline crack in a circuit board that had been slowly degrading system accuracy. It would take precision work to repair, the kind that required both technical skill and an understanding of how aircraft systems talk to each other. The kind that required someone who had spent years learning every component of military aviation technology. The Mediterranean sun slanted through the small porthole, casting geometric shadows across her workspace. Soon, they would need those coordinates for something more important than a routine patrol. The first sign of trouble came as a whisper through the radio static. Thalia caught it before anyone else, a brief transmission in Arabic, coordinates that matched their current flight path exactly. Someone was tracking them. Someone was waiting. She worked faster now, her hands moving with the urgency of experience. The targeting system hummed back to life just as Captain Reeves's voice changed tone completely. No more casual dismissal. No more jokes about desk work. "Constantinos," he said, and there was something different in his voice, something that sounded almost like respect. "I need those coordinates, now." Through the porthole, Thalia could see the first contrails of approaching aircraft, too distant to identify but close enough to matter. The Mediterranean suddenly felt much smaller. The targeting computer displayed a perfect green grid, every number precise and reliable. She had given them their eyes back just in time to see the danger approaching. Captain Reeves repeated the coordinates she transmitted, word for word, with a precision that told her everything about how seriously he was taking her calculations. The casual dismissal was gone. The jokes had stopped. In the space between one transmission and the next, everything had changed. The unknown aircraft were closing fast, their radar signatures finally clear enough to identify. Not friendly, not expected. The routine reconnaissance mission had become something else entirely, A chess game played at 30,000 feet with weapons that could reach across hundreds of miles of open water. Thalia's fingers flew across the targeting system controls, feeding real-time data to the cockpit as fast as the computers could process it. Range, bearing, altitude, speed, every number mattered now. Every calculation could mean the difference between making it home and becoming another classified incident report. The radio crackled with urgent transmissions as air traffic control tried to make sense of the developing situation. Military frequencies came alive with coded communications, vectors and clearances that painted a picture of controlled chaos. But through it all, Thalia's voice remained steady, whisper quiet and absolutely certain. Captain Reeves was learning what others had discovered over 16 years of service. When Thalia Constantinos transmitted coordinates, those numbers were gospel. When she painted a target, it stayed painted. When she guided weapons or aircraft or rescue operations, people came home alive. The casual dismissal had been replaced by something much more valuable, trust earned through precision under pressure. The approaching aircraft had split into two groups, one maintaining distance while the other closed for what appeared to be visual identification. Standard intercept protocol, but executed with the kind of coordination that suggested military training. Professional, dangerous. Targeting system is fully operational, Captain, Thalia reported, her voice carrying across the intercom with characteristic calm. All navigation and fire control computers are online and synchronized. You have full tactical capability. The words hung in the recycled air of the aircraft like a promise. Whatever was coming, they would face it with every technological advantage she could provide. The broken targeting system had become their lifeline, calibrated to perfection by someone who understood that precision wasn't just about hitting targets. It was about bringing everyone home. Through the porthole, the approaching aircraft were clearly visible now. Sleek, modern fighters with no national markings. Professional intercept formation, weapons systems active. The kind of encounter that could escalate from diplomatic incident to international crisis in the span of a heartbeat. The targeting system painted them in perfect detail, every angle and speed calculated with mathematical certainty. Captain Reeves's voice was different now when he spoke to her. The dismissive tone had evaporated like morning mist, replaced by the kind of professional respect that came from understanding exactly how valuable technical expertise could be when everything went wrong. Constantinos, I need continuous tracking on those bogies. Can your system maintain lock through evasive maneuvers? Affirmative, Captain. The targeting computer will maintain lock through any standard evasive pattern. I've optimized the tracking algorithms for high-G maneuvers. Her response was immediate, confident, backed by years of experience with systems that other technicians treated as black boxes. She knew every circuit, every line of code, every capability and limitation. The fighters were close enough now that she could make out individual details through the targeting system's high-resolution cameras. Modern aircraft, well-maintained, flown by pilots who knew their business. This wasn't some random encounter with amateur pilots in outdated equipment. These were professionals, and they were here for a reason. The radio crackled with a new transmission, clear and direct. Unidentified aircraft, alter course to bearing 090 and maintain current altitude. Acknowledge immediately. No identification. No explanation. Just a direct order delivered with the kind of authority that expected immediate compliance. Captain Reeves exchanged glances with his co-pilot, both understanding that their routine reconnaissance mission had become something much more complicated. Thalia's targeting system tracked every movement of the intercepting aircraft, their formation discipline perfect, their positioning tactical. Someone had planned this encounter carefully. Someone had known exactly where they would be and when. Captain, she said quietly, her voice carrying the weight of 16 years of experience, those aircraft are positioning for a coordinated intercept. Standard nay doctrine. Whoever's flying those fighters, they're not improvising. The Mediterranean sun reflected off polished canopies as the fighters adjusted their formation, one aircraft maintaining overwatch while the other moved closer for visual identification. Professional, methodical, dangerous in the way that only competent military forces could be dangerous. Captain Reeves keyed his microphone for an encrypted transmission to higher command, requesting clarification and support. The response came back quickly. Maintain course, avoid provocation, gather intelligence. Standard orders that were easy to give from a safe command center and much harder to execute at 30,000 feet with unknown fighters breathing down your neck. Thalia watched the tactical display with growing concern. The intercept pattern was textbook perfect, but it was also aggressive. These pilots weren't just making contact, they were demonstrating their ability to control the engagement. Every movement showed training, discipline, and confidence. The kind of confidence that came from knowing you held all the advantages. The targeting system painted everything in crystal clarity: range markers, velocity vectors, weapon system status indicators. The unknown fighters were armed with air-to-air missiles, their radar systems actively painting the C-130. Not locked on, not yet, but close enough to matter. Close enough to turn diplomatic incident into tragedy in the span of seconds. Targeting system shows active radar illumination from both aircraft, Thalia reported. They're painting us, but no weapons lock detected. Yet. Her voice remained steady, professional, but Captain Reeves caught the underlying tension. After 16 years of service, Thalia Constantinos had developed an almost supernatural ability to read tactical situations. When she said, "yet," in that particular tone, it meant something. The fighters maintained their perfect formation, close enough now that individual pilot details were visible through the targeting system's cameras. Professional flight suits, modern helmets, the kind of equipment that suggested state-level military support. These weren't pirates or terrorists flying surplus equipment. These were frontline military pilots in frontline military aircraft. Unidentified aircraft, final warning. Alter course immediately or face the consequences. The transmission was clear, direct, and delivered with the kind of authority that suggested those consequences would be both immediate and permanent. Captain Reeves felt the weight of command settle on his shoulders like lead. 300 miles from the nearest friendly base, surrounded by fighters with unknown intentions, carrying classified reconnaissance equipment that absolutely could not fall into hostile hands. Thalia's fingers moved across the targeting system controls with practiced efficiency, feeding continuous updates to the cockpit displays. Every radar sweep, every course change, every tactical movement was cataloged and analyzed. If this situation deteriorated into combat, Captain Reeves would have every possible advantage her systems could provide. But advantages meant little when you were outgunned, outnumbered, and 300 miles from help. The lead fighter moved closer, close enough that its pilot was clearly visible through the cockpit canopy. Young, professional, confident. The kind of pilot who had trained for exactly this type of intercept mission. The kind who would follow orders without hesitation, even if those orders meant shooting down an unarmed reconnaissance aircraft. "Captain," Thalia said quietly, "recommend we comply with their course change. Those fighters are positioning for a kill shot. Professional intercept doctrine. They're not bluffing." Her assessment was clinical, precise, backed by years of studying aerial tactics and combat formations. The targeting system painted the entire tactical picture in real time. The fighters were positioned to attack from multiple angles, their formation optimized for maximum lethality. This was how professionals eliminated threats. Captain Reeves looked at his options and found them limited. Change course and potentially compromise their mission. Maintain course and risk escalation to weapons free. Neither choice was good, but one was clearly survivable. "Acknowledged," he transmitted to the fighters. Altering course to bearing 090, maintaining current altitude. The C-130 banked gently to the new heading, its engines steady and reliable. Through the porthole, Thalia watched the fighters adjust their formation to match the course change. Perfect tactical discipline. They weren't taking any chances with an unidentified aircraft in their operational area. The targeting system continued its electronic vigilance, tracking every movement, cataloging every detail. Whatever was happening here, higher command would want a complete tactical picture. The reconnaissance mission had become something else entirely, an intelligence-gathering opportunity of a different kind. Miles passed beneath them in tense silence. The fighters maintained their escort formation, close enough to respond to any deviation but far enough away to avoid appearing overtly threatening. Professional courtesy between military aviators, even when the politics were unclear. Captain Reeves found himself relying more and more on Thalia's tactical assessments. Her voice had become the steady constant in an increasingly uncertain situation. Every update was precise, every recommendation sound. The casual dismissal from earlier in the flight seemed like something from another lifetime. "Captain," she said, her voice carrying that particular quality that had earned her the call sign whisper, "the lead fighter is beginning to drop back. Looks like they're satisfied with our compliance." The targeting system confirmed her assessment. The unknown aircraft were gradually increasing their distance, their formation shifting from aggressive intercept to routine escort. Still dangerous, still armed, but no longer positioned for immediate attack. Through the porthole, the Mediterranean sparkled like hammered gold in the afternoon sun. The routine reconnaissance mission had become a lesson in the delicate balance between military professionalism and international incident. Every decision mattered. Every transmission was weighed for its potential consequences. Thalia's targeting system had given them the precision they needed to navigate the encounter safely. Her technical expertise had transformed a potentially catastrophic situation into a manageable diplomatic incident. The broken targeting computer had become their lifeline, calibrated to perfection by someone who understood that in military aviation, precision wasn't just about hitting targets, it was about survival. The fighters maintained their escort for another 20 minutes before gradually increasing distance and finally disappearing into the haze of the Mediterranean afternoon. Professional to the end, they had made their point without escalating to violence. A demonstration of capability wrapped in diplomatic courtesy. Captain Reeves exhaled slowly as the last radar contact faded from the targeting display. The immediate crisis was over, but the implications would ripple through intelligence channels for weeks. An unknown military force had just demonstrated the ability to intercept and control Western reconnaissance flights in international airspace. "Outstanding work, Constantinos," he said over the intercom. "That targeting system performed flawlessly." Thalia smiled at the compliment, her hands still moving across the control panels with practiced efficiency. "Just doing my job, Captain, making sure the equipment works when you need it." But both of them knew it had been more than that. Technical expertise under pressure was a rare commodity, and Thalia Constantinos had just demonstrated why 16 years of service had earned her a reputation for reliability. The casual dismissal from earlier in the flight was forgotten, replaced by professional respect earned through performance. The C-130 continued its eastward course, its reconnaissance mission resuming as if nothing had happened. But everything had changed. The routine flight had become a reminder that in military aviation, there were no routine flights. Every mission carried the potential for escalation, for encounters that could reshape international relations. Through the porthole, the Mediterranean stretched toward the horizon like a promise of safer skies ahead. The targeting system hummed quietly in its rack, every circuit tested and proven reliable. Thalia's precision had given them the tools they needed to survive an encounter that could have ended very differently. The radio crackled with routine air traffic control transmissions as they approached their next navigation waypoint. Normal sounds, familiar procedures, the comforting rhythm of military aviation operating as designed. But underneath the routine communications was a new awareness, the knowledge that somewhere in the vast blue sky, unknown forces were watching, waiting, capable of reaching out across hundreds of miles to touch their carefully planned mission. Captain Reeves found himself thinking about the young pilot in the lead fighter. Professional competence was the same in any air force, any nation. The discipline, the training, the willingness to follow orders into situations that could turn lethal in seconds. Military aviation created a particular kind of person, regardless of the flag on their aircraft. Thalia secured her tools and began the post-maintenance paperwork that would document the targeting system repair. Every component tested, every calibration verified, every system integration confirmed. The kind of meticulous documentation that meant the next crew would have equipment they could trust completely. The encounter had lasted less than an hour, but its effects would ripple through intelligence analysis for months. Every radar signature, every tactical movement, every communication had been recorded and would be studied by specialists who understood the delicate art of reading military intentions through aerial ballet. The targeting system continued its electronic vigil, now perfectly calibrated and fully operational. Thalia's repair work had given them capabilities that might prove crucial in future encounters. The broken computer had become a reminder that in military aviation, every system mattered. Every component had to work perfectly when everything went wrong. Through the headphones, air traffic control guided them toward their next waypoint with routine precision. The familiar cadence of military communications, call signs and vectors that painted an invisible highway through the sky. Normal operations resuming after an encounter that had been anything but normal. Captain Reeves glanced back toward the avionics bay where Thalia was completing her paperwork. The casual dismissal from earlier seemed not just wrong now, but actively dangerous. Technical expertise like hers could mean the difference between successful mission completion and disaster. The repair work she had done might save lives in future encounters. The Mediterranean afternoon was peaceful now, empty of unknown fighters and their uncomfortable questions. But the encounter had changed things in subtle ways that would affect future missions. Intelligence had been gathered from both sides. Capabilities had been demonstrated and assessed. The careful dance of military forces had played out over international waters with professional courtesy masking deadly serious intentions. Thalia finished her paperwork and secured the targeting system for the remainder of the flight. Every switch in the proper position, every indicator showing green, every system tested and proven reliable. The kind of thoroughness that separated professional military technicians from those who merely maintained equipment. The C-130's engines droned steadily eastward, carrying them toward mission completion and the safety of friendly airspace. But the encounter with the unknown fighters had been a reminder that safety was always temporary in military aviation. Every flight carried risks that couldn't be completely eliminated, only managed through preparation, training, and the kind of technical expertise that made critical systems work when everything depended on them. Captain Reeves would file his report later, documenting the encounter in the precise language of military aviation. But he would remember the sound of Thalia's voice during the crisis, steady, professional, absolutely reliable. The voice that had earned the call sign whisper through years of guiding aircraft home safely. The targeting system hummed quietly in its rack, a testament to precision engineering and careful maintenance. Thalia's repair work had given them the tools they needed to navigate an increasingly dangerous world. The broken computer had become a metaphor for the importance of technical expertise in military operations. Through the porthole, the Mediterranean shimmered in the afternoon light, beautiful and deceptive in its peaceful appearance. Somewhere beneath that tranquil surface, Submarines moved through the depths with their own missions and their own secrets. The encounter with the fighters had been just one small part of a much larger game. The radio carried routine transmissions from other aircraft, the normal traffic of military aviation operating across the Mediterranean. But every transmission now carried additional weight, the knowledge that unknown forces were listening, analyzing, preparing their own responses to Western military presence in the region. Thalia reviewed her targeting system diagnostics one final time, ensuring that every component was operating within specifications. The repair work had been successful, but military electronics required constant vigilance. Every system was one component failure away from reduced capability, and reduced capability could mean the difference between mission success and disaster. The encounter had ended peacefully, but it had been a reminder that military aviation existed in a world where peaceful endings were never guaranteed. Every flight crew had to be prepared for the moment when routine became crisis, when diplomatic courtesy gave way to weapons-free authorizations. Captain Reeves reflected on the transformation in his own attitude toward Thalia's presence on the crew. The casual dismissal had been replaced by professional respect earned through performance under pressure. Technical expertise wasn't just about maintaining equipment. It was about providing the tools that made survival possible when everything went wrong. The C-130 continued eastward through the Mediterranean afternoon, its mission resuming as if the encounter had never happened. But everyone on board understood that something had changed. The routine reconnaissance flight had become a reminder that in military aviation, there were no routine flights. Every mission carried the potential for encounters that could reshape everything. The targeting system's displays showed clear skies ahead, empty of radar contacts and immediate threats. But the electronic vigilance continued, watching for the next challenge, the next test of equipment and crew training. Thalia's repair work had ensured they would meet that challenge with every possible technological advantage. Through the porthole, the afternoon sun painted the Mediterranean in shades of gold and blue that seemed too beautiful for the serious business of military reconnaissance. But beauty and danger often occupied the same space in military aviation. The most peaceful skies could hide the most serious threats. The radio crackled with a new transmission from air traffic control, routine vectors that would guide them toward their destination. The familiar cadence of military communications, precise and professional, carrying them through a world where precision and professionalism were often the only things standing between success and disaster. Captain Reeves keyed his microphone to acknowledge the new vectors, his voice carrying the same professional tone that had become the standard for military aviation worldwide. But underneath, the routine communication was a new appreciation for the technical expertise that made such precision possible. Thalia began the process of shutting down the targeting system for the final approach to their destination. Every component secured in the proper sequence, every safety protocol followed exactly. The kind of attention to detail that ensured the system would be ready for immediate use if needed during landing or future missions. The encounter with the unknown fighters would generate intelligence reports and tactical analyses that would influence military planning for months. Every detail would be studied, every movement analyzed for clues about capabilities and intentions. The careful dance of military forces would continue, but with new understanding of the players involved. Through the headphones came the sound of their destination airport, air traffic control guiding them through the final approach procedures with routine precision. The targeting system had been secured, its electronic vigilance temporarily suspended, but ready to resume at a moment's notice. Captain Reeves felt the satisfaction of mission completion mixed with the sobering awareness of how quickly situations could change. The encounter had been resolved peacefully, but it had been a reminder that peaceful resolutions required preparation, training, and the kind of technical expertise that Thalia Constantinos represented. The C-130 touched down with characteristic smoothness, its systems performing exactly as designed. The reconnaissance mission was complete, but the real mission, understanding the changing dynamics of Mediterranean security, was just beginning. The encounter would ripple through intelligence channels, influencing decisions and preparations for future operations. Thalia completed her post-flight checks with the same attention to detail that had characterized her entire approach to military service. Every system documented, every component verified, every lesson learned preserved for future reference. The broken targeting computer had become a reminder that in military aviation, every detail mattered. As the aircraft taxied toward the parking area, Captain Reeves reflected on the day's lessons. Technical expertise wasn't just about maintaining equipment, it was about providing the foundation for mission success. Thalia's work had given them the tools they needed to navigate an increasingly complex and dangerous world. The targeting system was secured in its rack, silent but ready. The next crew would find it perfectly calibrated and fully operational, a testament to the kind of technical expertise that made military aviation possible. The encounter with the unknown fighters had proven the value of preparation and precision in a world where both were essential for survival. Through the cockpit windows, the familiar sight of their home base brought a sense of completion mixed with anticipation. The mission was over, but the intelligence gathered would influence future operations across the Mediterranean. The routine reconnaissance flight had become something much more significant. Captain Reeves would remember this flight for the rest of his career, not just for the encounter with unknown fighters, but for the lesson in professional respect and technical expertise. Thalia Constantinos had earned her reputation through years of precise work under pressure, and today had been a perfect demonstration of why that reputation mattered. The aircraft came to a stop, its engines winding down with the familiar whine of turbines returning to rest. The reconnaissance mission was complete, but the real work was just beginning. The intelligence gathered would be analyzed, the encounter studied, the lessons learned incorporated into future planning. Thalia gathered her tools and prepared to depart the aircraft, her work complete but her vigilance continuing. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new systems to maintain, new technologies to master. The targeting computer had been just one small part of a much larger mission that never truly ended. Captain Reeves watched his crew complete their post-flight procedures with new appreciation for the technical expertise that made everything possible. The casual dismissal from earlier in the flight seemed not just wrong now, but actively dangerous. In military aviation, every specialist mattered. Every component had to work perfectly when everything depended on it. The Mediterranean sun was setting as they secured the aircraft and prepared to depart. The encounter with the unknown fighters had ended peacefully, but it had been a reminder that peace was always temporary in military operations. The next challenge was already forming somewhere beyond the horizon. Thalia completed her final equipment check and prepared her maintenance report. The targeting system was fully operational, its performance proven under pressure. The broken computer had become a testament to the importance of technical expertise in military aviation. Every component mattered when survival was at stake. The day's mission was over, but its effects would continue. Intelligence analysts would study every detail of the encounter, tactical specialists would update their assessments of regional threats, and future missions would be planned with new understanding of the challenges facing Western forces in the Mediterranean. Captain Reeves signed the flight log and prepared to depart the aircraft. The routine reconnaissance mission had become a lesson in the importance of technical expertise and professional respect. Thalia Constantinos had demonstrated why 16 years of service had earned her a reputation for reliability under pressure. The targeting system rested silently in its rack, every circuit tested and proven. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but tonight brought the satisfaction of mission accomplished and equipment proven reliable. The broken computer had been repaired by someone who understood that in military aviation, precision wasn't just about hitting targets, it was about survival itself.